Hi, I'm Jeanne, Vercel's COO. I joined Vercel because it became clear to me that over time, every pixel on the internet should be built on Vercel. In the 100 days since I've been here, I've realized that Vercel's potential is even greater. In the fullness of time, we can help deliver every pixel and every token. Just as everyone in this room has had to rapidly evolve, so has the Vercel platform. We'll continue to render every front end, and now also host every back end and power every agent. The updates you've heard today are designed to help keep you flexible, move fast, and stay secure, so you're ready for whatever's next. Everything we're shipping is in service of enabling you to stay focused on what matters most, building your products. Not dealing with AI pricing, complicated workloads or workflows, or reacting to novel security incidents. Most of these are delivered with a single toggle or lightweight SDKs, done the Vercel way so you can get started today. The teams that will win with AI are the teams focused on shipping functionality that solves user problems, rather than getting bogged down in infrastructure management or rewriting API endpoints for ever-changing models. And to talk about how they're doing this, I'd love to introduce 3 Vercel customers who are leading the way as early adopters. Different industries, different company sizes, and different ways of using AI, but all with a shared mindset. Move fast, experiment boldly, and redefine how things get built on the web. Welcoming to the stage, Matthew Drooker, CTO of the Weather Company, one of the top 15 most visited sites on the planet. Will Gaybrick, president of Stripe, which handles over $1.4 trillion of payments volume yearly and serves half of the Fortune 100. And Paul Klein IV, CEO of Browserbase, #1 in early stage category of Enterprise Tech 30 list. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me on stage. You all are helping define the next chapter of the internet, so we're excited to get some information from you all. As I think you've heard throughout this talk, there's a lot of transformation happening. Matthew, you have been the CTO of CNN, SoundCloud, and now the Weather Company. So suffice to say, they seem to bring you in when transformation is on the agenda. So I thought I'd start with you. What are some of the tenets that you follow for leading an organization through change?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Change has always been just part of the DNA that I've tried to instill in a company. I was at Turner for 32 years, but spent a lot of time rebuilding teams, rebuilding tech, understanding that change happens in your personal life, it happens in your work life. But how people deal with change, I think, is the most interesting way to lead teams forward, which is embrace the uncomfortableness of change. Be okay with failure. Understand that how you build things will change every day. You look at your code that you wrote yesterday, you're questioning why you wrote it that way. And I think that kind of iteration and understanding with how do you move forward, knowing that you may not know the answer, has been one of the biggest things I've tried to focus on.
Nice. And Will, you are coming up on a decade at Stripe. You've led Stripe through moving up market into enterprise, becoming meaningfully more global, and now becoming a decidedly multi-product company. What has worked well for you?
Well, first off, I think it's a super apt question because Stripe is going on 15 years old. But we have been talking about how, internally, about how we really do think over the next 2 to 3 years, things are going to change more. Maybe sounds trite, but really do think they will than they have over the past, say even 15 years. For us, it's not just everything happening in AI, but also stablecoins and crypto becoming real, sort of new money movement rails. So I think it's a very apt question, something we're thinking a lot about. I'd say first off, thinking about and making clear what is not going to change. So we just heard a lot about security. So security not going to change completely. Well, we have to change your ways of mitigating security threats, but our focus on it will not change. Reliability will not change. For Stripe, product quality is really part of the company's DNA and day-to-day focus, so that's not going to change. And then in parallel with what's not going to change, really giving your employees and the whole company context as to for the things that will change, why are they going to change? And organizations can sometimes feel very resistant to change, but if you give the context, you can actually find that not just changing recruiting allocation between teams, but even internal transfers between teams, which feel like just crossing a holy wall between teams, that you just can't move people across it. People understand why you can actually land it. So really those two. What's not going to change, and then for the things that are, why are they going to change, and why should we be excited about it?
Nice. Paul, your company's 2 years old, so you don't have to do as much as transformation.
I think I'm on the wrong panel.
Yeah. But you have managed to develop the leading AI browser out there, so you must be onto something right organizationally. What's working for you?
Yeah, I think the future is software doing work on your behalf. And at Browserbase, we help software do work on your behalf, which often involves interacting with the legacy internet. There's a lot of great new software being built that has default APIs and AI connectors, but the lumber supply company in Mexico or the bank in Japan doesn't have an MCP server. They have a website, and Browserbase is building that browser tool for AI that lets your agent go out and interact with websites on behalf of a person to try and get some work done. And the world has just changed so much in the past 18 months since we started this company, and the whole infrastructure stack is changing, right? And thinking about what primitives you need for this future of software, that's just critically important for teams that do want to ship fast. And at Browserbase, we're happy to be both a Vercel customer, but also a piece of that infrastructure stack for browser infrastructure. And the whole mission is to help people ship and build this next generation of software that's really going to do so much more than the software 2.0 world.
So we'd like to say, as you've seen a couple times, you can just ship things. And all three of your companies have shipped pretty large AI advancements. What are some of the operating principles and sort of foundational ways of working that you think are enabling your companies to bring those to life?
I think for us, we've been an AI OG for quite some time. The way that weather was calculated and forecasted and understood has been using AI for years. It was called algorithms back in the day. But now, when we took a look at the team of people that looked at weather, we have really started blending them with our engineers that display it to our product, the products and the customers. And so, yes, we migrated to Vercel. We brought on V0 as a way to kind of start melding the designers and the engineers together. But we're really kind of crafting this story and narrative to have AI plus our OG-ness in the space be able to be seen by our users and understood by our users. And that change requires a lot of empathy in understanding that engineers will change the way they work. Management will change how people are viewed, and understanding that this is a journey and we'll have to figure it out as we go means we're okay with making a few stumbles along the way. And I think for me, it's really been, since I still get to develop and engineer every day, it's been really fulfilling to see how engineers have embraced the platform with AI. And it requires some empathy to say, I know it's going to change. It's okay. Let's figure it out together.
Want to mix it up?
Yeah, I think for our team, we think about how can we let engineers really have ownership end-to-end over what they're building. And with the power of, all these great tools, you can now ship, test, ideate, gather feedback, and analyze data much faster than before. There's single engineers at Browserbase that are delivering software at a pace that outmatches teams of 10 that I was on earlier in my career. So I think there's never been a better time to be an engineer and use all these tools and operate with extremely high leverage. And the key skill that I look for when hiring people at Browserbase is how high agency are you and how much ownership do you want to have over your outcomes? Because you really can go end to end. I think there's no more front end or back end engineers. There's just engineers, and they can use tools to build great software today.
Yeah, I think that the morale just goes up a whole different level when people have ownership and understand that they built that in days and minutes. And when you have a team of people that are rallying around a thing, having the ownership of it is so key. And having these tools be able to power that is thumbs up.
Yeah, you can just do things.
Yeah, I think you can just ship things. I think the desire to move fast and just how to get your company to move fast, I think first and foremost has to be cultural. It has to be this relentless focus on users and I think intense dissatisfaction with the status quo. I think we as leaders have to be very careful about any place we insert mechanisms to slow teams down. And I think they tend to be hopefully related to the things that your company does best. So maybe for you all, you're thinking about when we update algorithms or sort of the ways that we may or may not or may degrade or improve our ability to forecast the weather. For us, it's API development in a lot of cases, and so we've spent a lot of time honing our mechanism internally, called API review, and making it not just good, but something people are excited to go to, because they actually get better at API design when they go talk to our API reviewers and learn about sort of how their designs could be better. But I think if you're not careful, you'll find all these little choke points crop up across the organization. And I think thinking about where will we be fundamentally differentiated if we do slow down and sort of not just ship things, but take a beat is really important.
Yeah, I feel like you can't talk about Stripe and not talk about the operating principle of users first.
Yep.
I feel like that's another tenet that the companies that are leading the way really get right now is you've got to have design partners to be on the bleeding edge, have the people pushing you, have them giving minute by minute feedback in a shared Slack channel. I know Stripe does that well. Vercel's done that great as far as I can see in the first 100 days.
Yeah, there's the Buffett or Munger-ism around having the right shareholders is so important for sort of long-term focus.
Yep.
We think a lot about having the right users. I'm happy to work with the likes of the Vercels,
yep.
Particularly in times of great change, because they are the ones who are going to lead you to your strategy. Yep. You're not just going to go into your sort of thinking cave and come back with the answer. When the world's changing this fast, you just have to work with the right users and build for them.
Yep. So it seems like every CEO out there has given the mandate of 100% of your employees must use AI. But I'm not sure 100% of them are getting the productivity uplift yet. So I'm curious, where are you guys actually seeing the biggest gains?
Well, we were talking about this a bit earlier backstage, but I'll say for me, I felt a bit insecure about this in some cases because I'm not using O3 enough in my daily workflows, writing emails or whatever. And I think there are places where AI and sort of language models are creeping into my workflows more on a personal basis, but where they're really not creeping in, but sort of bounding in is whenever I sit down to write code. And I think, for probably all of our companies, we would say that if it's not fundamentally changing how your engineers work day to day, which tend to be all of our largest cost center, then you're probably a bit behind the curve. And I don't know exactly where, things will land in terms of, how our cost structures will change or, team structures will change, but you certainly see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, it feels like AI has reduced the static friction of getting started. You have to write that blog post and it's just staring you in the face, this empty page, right? Or you have to start that, bug fix, or maybe you have to start that customer email. And sometimes getting over that hump is just really hard for people. And I think within our company in Browserbase, what I've seen is people really maybe start with AI, but then really refine and edit and add their personal touch. And I think that's just been so powerful that there's nothing stopping you from just building or starting or working. You just can have AI help you start, overcome that first hump, and then you fall in love with the task and build something that you really care about, you think is great.
Yeah, I think a key word for me is the entropy of getting moving and getting started. And AI has really been this tool that makes the barrier to movement that much easier. And so, for your example around whether it be a PR, whether it be a bug, whether it be a feature, getting the entropy moving in a direction that gets an engineer excited about having a place to start. And then I would challenge the mandate versus guidance. For us, it's really, how do you guide somebody into doing a thing versus telling somebody how to do a thing? Because then you get the morale going, you get buy-in, You get an understanding that they're just as part of the solution as the tool itself. So I would change a little bit from mandate. But for us, it has really been, here's a set of tools. We're going to make sure you have the best tools out there. We're going to monitor not your usage of it, but the impact of that tool. And then we can start showing like the progress that we've made in going from straight coding to coding with AI, and understanding what the progression is matters for us. So we have a lot of tools in place that we built internally since we were in AIOG to understand token usage and its impact.
Awesome correction from a man who clearly knows how to affect change. I'll say, I know we have a somewhat more technical audience, but most of you probably work with the go-to-market team to actually bring those products to market as well. So on our end, we've gotten a lot of value from we now have a go-to-market engineering team. So I took some of our best sales engineers and pivoted them to this function. And what they're doing is going role by role within the go-to-market org, so sales development, account executives, et cetera, and basically watch the top human and get them to talk out loud where they're executing their task. And you find almost everything you couldn't have automated before, AI can now totally do.
Yeah, we've had phenomenal love for Miguel, who you put
good
with us.
SE.
And he was just great at highlighting the things that, well, you're doing it this way, but you may want to do it this way.
Yeah.
And he was phenomenal.
Nice. So pulling back a little bit, how each of you are in different industries, how do you see AI impacting your space more broadly?
Yeah, I think we're probably most close to the bleeding edge of Browserbase. And what our customers build are often what's called a web agent, or it's an agent that browses the web to do some work, part of that automation mandate that you're talking about earlier. And what we've really seen is that, and what I didn't expect was just how quickly models have gotten faster, cheaper, and better. And you just should build your company around the expectation that they will get faster, cheaper, and better, right? And I think when we started Browserbase, seeing AI or a model click a button on a page or navigate multiple pages seemed like an impossible task, or it took forever, or was really expensive with certain models. But now it just continues to get even better and is working in a way that I think will be almost instantaneous in the near future. So for us, we're really building with the anticipation that models will continue to get even better, cheaper, and faster, and that really just continues to unlock so much more. If you look at, we just launched a new product built on Vercel called Drooker, and I'm like, man, it could be so much faster, and we just need one more iteration of models on the reasoning side to get things so much faster, and that's just going to unlock product experiences that are going to be so delightful for people and really feel native, feel like it's a human thinking, not inference running in a cloud somewhere.
Yeah, there's so much on the developer side, things that we're already talking about. Sort of how can engineers get the most out of Stripe within v0? Right now I think models are having to do too much work to sort of figure out what is the right way to integrate Stripe or whatever other service. There's so many little things we can all do that are high leverage, just rendering your docs in Markdown, for example. But setting aside all the developer stuff, and there's so much there, and so excited about a lot of what you all are doing here at Vercel. For financial services and e-commerce, seems like a lot is going to change, and it's becoming clearer every day. One of the things that I'm really excited about is just for the internet to become more economically efficient. And I don't mean just sort of streamlining flows. There's sort of, making your checkout adapt even better to the next customer. Very real. You all should use Stripe to do that. We're very good at that. But it goes way beyond that to just what is a website and what is a checkout experience. And it used to be that you had this sort of static place where customers would come manually, and they would see how things are priced and whether or not they got free shipping or whatever. And now you can have sort of autonomous agents on both sides that are experts in negotiating and have a sense of how much they're willing to pay, or how low they're willing to go. They understand the margin structure of that T-shirt, so they understand what a good cart looks like. And so suddenly these static and sort of lonely unmanned experiences can become vibrant, and transactions that would otherwise not happen, I think, will start happening.
Yeah, I mean, you guys at Sessions, you talked all about agentic commerce, and I think your demo of the order intents API was crazy to see an agent go out there and buy something for me online. And I imagine that's really, do you see a lot of Stripe moving towards a world where maybe agents are buying stuff, not just people?
This was the demo that didn't work.
Yeah, I think there was some sort of SMS issue.
I will say the browser-based portion of it worked incredibly well, so thank you for that.
Of course, yeah.
But no, totally agree.
You know, for us, when you talk about payments, we also have an ad product. We have a couple of products, but for what we're starting to see is how does the weather impact when the right ad needs to be shown to the right person in the right region or DMA. And so, you know, any consumer packaged goods company is looking to us to go, when should we advertise this because it's going to be 100 degrees in New York? And so understanding that 2 weeks ago would have been great. And that's where we're starting to see, for the weather company, on the ad side, we're getting a ton of value out of understanding how AI can help us use MCP servers to help some of our partners on the enterprise side. But our enterprise business also has aviation. And so we power 25,000 flights a day's weather, and understanding what the weather impact is to that. And if you change a route, you may save 5% of the fuel. That is the biggest component of an aviation cost center. And so understanding where we're starting to take our products, go into the enterprise space, which are really these really interesting areas where you would think, oh, we already had that solved. And we're starting to use AI in a much better way, kind of what you're saying is customize the experience. And then on the consumer side, everyone feels temperature different. So when somebody says it's 72 degrees out, I think it's hot. My fiance may think it's cold. And so we're really starting to understand how do we target those experiences that are not just the temperature and not just the humidity, but what does it mean for me, or what does it mean for you, and what does it mean for you? And I think those are some of the really things that I'm getting really excited about. One of the reasons why I took the gig.
I think this is an incredibly important point. And I think today when we all talk about using AI at our companies, a lot of it is using language models or sort of AI-powered third-party tools. But another thing I think we should all be thinking about is just bringing way more data that would have seemed completely extraneous in years past into our products. So weather data and firewall products are probably related in ways that in the world of hand-curated features you would have never come to. You never said the next feature we should bring in is like how hot it is in New York. But if there's any story of AI that we should learn over the past 5 years, it's just vectorize in these massively high-dimensional spaces and introduce much less architecture and like human hand curation into it. So I think it's a really important point.
But there's also the flip side for our meteorologists is they look at all of these models. We have about 100 different models we run. We recalculate 2 million data points every 15 minutes for what the weather looks like. But then a human kind of adds well, I've seen this before. The machine may not get it right now. And so we're still doing this human over the loop dance. And I don't mean dance in a negative way. It's actually has made us the 4x more accurate than our closest competitor. And it is really that dynamic of AI plus humans on the forecast side. And then on the customer side, it's how do we then target those much better forecasts in a way that matters for somebody, that they probably, it's a surprise and delight moment. I think, and those are some of the new things that we're really excited about using Vercel for.
Nice. To round us out, top piece of advice for folks looking to just ship things in 2025.
Yeah, I would say that the bar for releasing great products has never been higher, actually. And that means like to just ship things, you can't just throw some rapper slop out there on Twitter and it's gonna go viral. You actually have to elevate your craft. But guess what? There's a cheat code. You have more access to tools, AI tools specifically, to make it easier to ship high quality products. And that means being in the details. There's no excuse for having UIs that don't resize well. You can generate that, right? So I would say you can just ship things, using all of these tools, using Vercel, of course, but you have to do it with a high quality bar, because if you're not gonna do it, somebody else is.
And maybe it's right people, right culture, right tools. Right people, again, coming back to this notion of intense dissatisfaction with the status quo, caring a lot about your users, spending time in your products, really, feeling, that it's, immersing yourself in the user experience viscerally. Right culture. Anyone who hasn't talked to Vercel about their Friday internal demo days, I really suggest you guys do. I spent some time with Malta and others, just sort of learning about them for Stripe's sake. We've adapted something kind of similar. But right culture, I think the desire to move fast has to come from leadership, and then sort of flow through to every part of the company. And then right tools. We don't. I was reflecting on this a couple of days ago, but we don't often give our teams a whole lot of say in what tools they can use, particularly when we get to sort of the enterprise level because of security reviews and like vendor onboarding and everything like that. But just as a very apt example, last fall, as we're coming up on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, back when you were at Stripe, so you were on our side of it at that point. We needed to stand up a mini site really, really fast. And it came down to a question on the Stripe end of whether we're going to build it on our front end stack or we're going to let a team just sort of go wild on Vercel. Shocker, they chose Vercel, and they stood up something really amazing in two short days. And so, giving people, of course, within reason, the ability to choose and develop their own tools, I think is really important.
Yep.
I think for me and people in my role, it should always be yes. Yes, and. If the default answer is no, you have no chance to change. And so, right people, right culture, those two go kind of hand in hand. Is you have to have the right culture to be okay with saying yes and being wrong. You also have to have the mentality of think big, but execute small. And we've actually made that one of our values at Weather, to understand that every small change means you either learned what not to do or learned, I'm going to take that and move it one step forward. And so when we went with Vercel back in February, it was like, yes, and. We're going to go do this. We have 10 days to go figure out how we're going to go scale a site that is the 15th largest in a way that matters but is incrementally adding value. And so we rebuilt the CMS that powers many of our article content pages and the render stack. But the answer had to be yes, because we spent 2 years arguing about no. And so for the culture side of it, it is really, again, engineers just need to keep pushing leaders to say yes. And it's my hope that that's what becomes of the world.
Perfect note to end on. Well, thank you all for joining me. Thank you for being 3 of our most demanding customers, and have a fabulous rest of your day.
Thank you.
One of the most exciting things about being at Vercel is the opportunity to partner with our customers and be at the forefront of what they're building. We get to see the hottest AI startups pioneering the most groundbreaking agent ideas, and we get to be inspired by global organizations guiding their organizations through transformation. There's nothing better than working with the world's most demanding customers across both ends of the spectrum. We'll make sure you have the platform you need to bring those bold visions to life with the Vercel AI Cloud. We've got a great day planned, and I'm excited to connect with all of you. Thank you.